And good morning and welcome. Saturday, December 12th. Christmas is 2 weeks away. So I think many of you probably already have your Christmas cards done, but the techniques that we're going to show today, you could use for tags as well, or maybe they're cards for people that you're going to be seeing in person. We did have a request on Facebook. Well, I put the request out. What do you guys want to learn? And one of the answers that came back was folded paper trees. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can fold paper to make really fun. I'm going to call them evergreen trees. And if you use Christmassy paper, then it looks very Christmassy. Or you could use just fall or winter paper, and it changes the look just a little bit, but all of the same techniques apply. What I discovered as I was going through these, all of these use square pieces of paper, which makes it really easy to cut and prep. And you can use as many layers or as few layers as you wish. On 2 of mine, I've got 3 layers of trees. This guy, I went up to 5 just because I really wanted the height on him. But you can use as many layers as you want. You can use the same paper. You can use different, there we go. I'm catching up now. You can use different paper on the layers. It's really up to you. My best recommendation though would be to make sure you use odd numbers. So 3, 5, maybe 7. Odd numbers in creative work and artwork just always tend to look better to the eye. So just keep that in mind. Now, if you're going along and you've got 4 layers on and you've run out of space to put that 5th layer on, don't sweat. It's not a hard and fast rule. It's just a suggestion. So we are going to start today with this guy in the middle. He's very simple. This guy then gets up there or goes to the next level in terms of difficulty. And then this guy here is particularly tricky. It's not difficult. It's the 3rd on the list. And that's why mine is a little bit wonky because A, it was late at night, and B, I was having a little bit of trouble with it. But you know what? It's all part of the learning process. And I'm totally okay sharing with you my wonky tree. And I even put a little owl on my tree. So lots of fun. So we're going to start with this tree here. I have prepped my card already. So on my card base, I have simply put a background on that is 4 by 5 1/4. So you can do that really quickly, or you can wait till the end. That's okay. For my tree, for this one in particular, it does matter what you have on the front as well as what you have on the back, because we are going to be seeing both sides. The other two trees we're going to make, you only need to know the one side. The other side really doesn't get seen, but this one you do need to be aware of what is on both sides. So I have chosen this paper. This is out of my Simple Stories, Simple Vintage North Pole 6x8 pad. The other thing I will say with these trees is we are going to do it freehand. We're not going to be scoring anything or prepping anything. We're just going to be kind of folding freehand. But that means that you want a thinner paper. You don't want a thick paper. You could try plain cardstock, but even that I think would be a little bit thick. You want to stay on the thinner side so that it is more flexible and pliable for our folds. So if you've got your card base ready, you can just set that off to the side for right now. Out of your pattern paper, we're going to cut 3 squares: a 3-inch square, a 2.5-inch square, and a 2-inch square. So again, when you're building your tree, you still want your tree to somewhat be a triangle as well. So you want to go in 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. It's up to you how. Start with your big one and go in to make your smaller ones. whatever measurement you want, but again, as long as it is the same difference between the 3 layers. The other thing I will caution you on this one in particular, because we're going to be folding on the diagonal, if I were to go with, say, a 4-inch square, because that's kind of where I started when I was doing my samples, because you are using the long diagonal, it's actually going to be longer than what you think it is going to be, and it's going to stick off your card. So that's why our biggest one, this is a 3-inch square, and that's probably as big as you want to go for a standard size card. So we need a 3-inch square, a 2.5-inch square, and a 2-inch square. I cut that up. So 3 by 3. Out of my scrap, I can do my 2.5 by 2.5. And then I need to cut a 2 by 2. Oops, now I'm dropping scraps on the floor. I'll get those afterwards. 2 and 2. If I start going too fast, ladies, please don't hesitate to unmute yourself and ask me to slow down or go over something. If you're watching on replay, just pause, rewind, and try it again. So we now have our 3 squares, and I've got my handy dandy ruler just because it's going to help me with my folds, and I've got my bone folder. So I'm going to start with my biggest square, move my 2 little ones off to the side. I want this side to be facing out where I've got the dark green here. So I'm going to flip it over, and then just on one diagonal from one corner to the opposite corner, I'm going to fold it together. And I just use the ruler just so I've got a nice straight edge, and then I can go and make sure everything is lining up. Give it a good crease. And now if you have a pencil, what you want to do is mark the halfway point on this long edge. So this guy, now that he's folded, is actually 4 inches wide, because remember I warned you that the diagonal is a little bit longer. So I'm just going to put a little tiny tick mark here at the 2-inch mark. If you can see, it's just halfway. All that's doing is giving me a landmark so that when I fold my corner down, my point is going to line up with that little tick mark. Having stripes on the other side helps because now I can make sure it's straight as well. So now my square looks like this, was like this. Fold that down, and then I'm going to fold this one back. And I can line up that line there, and it's all going to be nice and even. And there you have tree part number 1. Oh, that coffee's still hot. We're going to do the exact same thing to our medium square and to our small square. So we're going to fold on the diagonal. Try to get it as lined up as you possibly can. So this guy, when we put him on, when we measure him out, he is 3.5. So I'm going to mark my halfway point at 1 3/4. and fold down my point. Fold back the other point. And our tree is starting to come together. Last one. And his diagonal is 2 3/4. That's hard math. I'm just going to kind of guesstimate. Gonna be about there. I'm not good with math. Fold that down to the point. And I don't know if you saw what I just did here. All of my other diagonals are going horizontal. This one's going vertical. I could just cut another piece of paper, but I'm just going to flip it around. You know what? I am going to cut another piece of paper. That fold's going to bug me. Luckily, this does not take a whole lot of paper, so it's a great project for using up scraps and small bits. I'm going to put him way over here so I don't make a mistake and use him. On this one, be careful. Well, if you've gone ahead and folded it, it's okay. But with this one, you don't want to fold back the second fold, and I'll show you why. Because that is now going to be the top of our tree. So we want to make sure we still have that point. So even if you folded it, the fold's not going to show because it's going to be behind the other piece, but just pop that up so that you've got a nice tall triangle. And then now I'm just going to go and throw some adhesive underneath all the little flaps just to make sure everything sticks down nicely. You don't need a lot. So I just put it under that flap here, under this flap here, and I'm going to stick these guys together. And repeat. Flip. And just remember again on that small one, you're only tacking down the front triangle, not the back triangle. So there you go. We have our tree. I'm just going to put it on my card. I also had some wood grain paper scraps in my stash, so I've cut some little trunks for my tree. And on this guy, I just used a star punch and some metallic paper to embellish. You could put sequins and rhinestones on here. You could use your Nuvo drops. You can decorate this tree just like you would decorate your tree at home. I'm starting at the bottom, or with the bottom layer of the tree, maybe about 1.5 inches up from the bottom of the card. And now just layering my pieces. And you want to try and line up those points as much as possible. Like so. And this is all starting to come together. So my top tree with the point showing goes on the top. I'm going to just trim this down. You don't need a huge trunk. just a little stubby trunk at the bottom. Or you could choose, if you've got more layers here, you don't even need a trunk necessarily. I just like the idea of putting that on there. Punch myself a little star. I'm going to use a piece of foam tape to put my star on. How cute is that? Where's the end of my tape? If this was going to be your Christmas card for family cards and that kind of thing, and you were mass producing this, folding and creating your triangles could just be done in front of the TV. So there's card number 1. And as you can see, you've got both sides of the paper here. It's really fun. It's bright and colorful. And there we go. So that's one way, one easy way that you can just fold your corners back, show some different colors, and make some evergreen trees. The second card we're going to try is this guy. And what I really liked about this one was the dimension that you get with all of these layers popping up. Now, depending on how nicely and firmly you score your folds, you may not even need tape to tack these down. I did use a little bit of foam tape in these bottom 2 ones because they were standing up quite tall, but I'm going to see if I can do that without it this time. So this time we need 5 triangles, and we're going to go down in 1/2 inch increments. Our biggest triangle is going to be 4 inches, and that's okay because we're going to fold it differently than this one, so we don't need to worry about it going off the side. Whatever the size of your square should be the size of your card. And then we're going to go, so 4, 3 1/2, 3. No, that's not right. Sorry. We're going to skip the 3-inch layer. So you can see these 3 are smaller, then I skipped the 3, and then I did these 2. So 4, 3 1/2, 2 1/2, 2, 1 1/2. And I'll show you why I did that, because I am using 6x8 paper. But first, go ahead and prepare your card base. Pick a background, 4 by 5 1/4. And then this is the paper that I am choosing to do my trees out of. I'm using a 6x8, and it does not matter what's on the other side because you're really not going to see it unless you're looking right up its nose, so to speak. So the reason I did the measurements I did, and if you're cutting away and you want to go ahead and cut a 3-inch one in the middle and eliminate the 1 1/2, that's totally cool. But with my 6x8, what I found is that if I cut it this way at 4 inches, I can get a 4x4 and a 2x2 out of that top half of the piece of paper. I can actually even get my 1 1/2 by 1 1/2 out of this. And that is going to be a wee one, so just make sure when you're cutting you don't lose it. And then out of my second half, I can cut my 3 1/2 by 3 1/2 and my 2 1/2 by 2 1/2. So I'm just trying to maximize my paper as much as possible so I don't have to cut into a second piece. So what did I say? 3 1/2. That's going to go here. And then 2 1/2. Alrighty. Okay, so here we have our 5 squares this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very similar to this one here. It really is all in the folding, but it's super easy. So we don't need scoreboards. We don't need anything other than your ruler if you wish, and your guidelines so that we can mark halfway points. This time, instead of folding on the diagonal, we're just going to fold it in half in one direction. And just because this paper, I did it originally with polka dots, this one is directional, so I want to make sure I get the right direction. This way, that one, okay. It's really going to be more textural, but right now I've got little evergreen trees on my paper. I'm going to turn it counterclockwise, or you could do it clockwise, doesn't matter, at 90 degrees so that the trees are pointing off to one side. And I'll show you why in a second. Grab your ruler and we are going to fold it in half this way, actually this way. So away from you, fold it in half away from you. I actually don't need my ruler for this. I'm just gonna make sure my corners are lined up and score it down. So now we have a piece of paper that's folded in half along the horizontal with the not so pretty side on the inside. We're gonna mark our halfway point. So again, my square is 4 inches, so my halfway is 2. You can mark it on the front or the back. Again, it's not going to get seen. Now I'm going to use my ruler and I'm going to connect that halfway point with this outside corner. And I'm just going to fold it in like so. So yes, I've got some upside down trees and I'm okay with that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. From my halfway point to my corner, out like so. So now you have a triangle that looks like this. That's all you need to do. I'm going to give it some good burnishing here just to make sure those flaps stay down. I don't want to use tape if I can avoid it. And that's square number 1 prepped. So we're going to do the exact same thing for all 5 pieces. Fold it in half. Mark our halfway point. Sorry if I'm shaking the table with the camera. Occupational hazard. And they don't have to meet perfectly in the center. It's okay if they're not perfectly aligned or even if they're overlapping a little bit, because when they sit on your card, they're going to pop up just that little bit and nobody is going to know. So there's my next one. Halfway. Halfway. Two to go. Again, this is a really easy project to mass produce. I would probably do it in steps where I cut all my paper, made all my triangles, and then assembled my trees. Because who knows, maybe I want to mix and match my papers. And that way each tree is unique. So here we go. And my baby one. The little guy, you may not even need your ruler. Or maybe you do, depending. There we go. One side and the other side. So now we have all of our 5 triangles, and we're going to arrange them in order of size. And whereas on the front card, or the first card, we started from the bottom up, that way we knew we got our positioning right. On this one, because each layer tucks into the next layer, we're actually going to start with our top triangle. And if I kind of eyeball it, I'm going to aim for my top triangle. Again, this is where it's good to have pattern papers that have stripes or at least, lines of some sort. I'm going to try and aim for this snowflake here to line it up. So just a little bit of tape or liquid glue. This one, these techniques are all very flexible. Use whatever adhesive works for you. Use my snowflakes to line it up. And there's number 1. If you're going to put a star on top, obviously make sure that you leave enough room for that. Next one, I'm going to tuck. So when I say tuck, what I mean is I'm going to tuck the point of the bigger one just underneath. So now it looks like it has those layers. And if you try and line up your openings, then you'll make sure it's nice and straight. And just repeat all the way down. Tuck, there's a line of snowflakes, and stick. Now remember, going from your 3rd to your 4th, this is where we had a bit of a jump in size. So you might want to tuck that one up just a little bit more than you were on the previous ones, so that jump in size isn't as noticeable. And last but not least, our big daddy. And there you go. It adds some really natural dimension, but if you want to put it in an envelope, it's going to go nice and flat and be super easy to mail. And like I said, you can either leave it as such, and if you're looking really, really closely at mine, you can see that some of my little trees on my pattern paper are upside down. But when you're just looking at it at a glance, those little imperfections don't show up to most people. They're just so thrilled that you have made them something. It is amazing. So with this guy, you could, again, add on some rhinestones. You could add on a star. Because he's taking up so much of the card, I like having lots of layers with this particular technique. I'm not going to put a trunk on him, but you are more than welcome to do so. And then you could add your sentiment and so on. So that's technique number 2. technique number 3 has a few more intricate folds. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just on a piece of white paper first. So I would suggest you just watch first, and then we will go ahead and make a tree together. Because the folds are a little tricky, and especially with scrapbooking paper, if you've got paper that's too thick, and I'll still do the Lawn Fawn paper, so I'm going to use Lawn Fawn paper for my my third card, but I did find it was tricky to get the folds, and you'll see why. So you might want to use a thinner paper if you have one, or you could even just get out your stamps or your inks and make your own paper out of computer paper. Anyways, I'm going to start with a square for this part of the demonstration. Does not matter what size it is. When we get down here, we're going to do the same as the first card. We're going to do 3, 2.5, and 2. So while you're watching, if you want to get those ready, you absolutely can. I'm just going to do, how big is this paper? It's 5 inches. So I'm going to do 5 by 5 simply to show you the steps. I've got my Sharpie to mark it all out. Imagine that my ink side is my pattern side. So you want to start with this one with the pattern you want showing out, but we're going to fold in on it, and that's just to make our creases. So what I would do is have my square. I'm going to fold it in half this way. Unfold it, and then fold it in half this way. So we have our plus sign, just as we did on that second card. Actually, we only did half of it. We've got these here. Now what we want to do, so is we want to fold it diagonally once. So not both, just once. All right, so if you look at my paper, I now have a fold here, a fold here, and a fold here, with my pretty side still facing up. I need to make 2 more folds, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We want to be mindful of where the center is, but we want to take this fold here and fold it up to this fold. So we want to go like this and make a fold. We want to open it up, except I didn't even come anywhere close to my center. Okay, so that's what you have to be mindful of, remember, is this center mark here. There we go, that's better. That's why I'm doing it on practice paper first. Okay, so now we have a fold that runs like this. And ideally, it's going right through the center. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Let's fold, make sure I get the right fold. Put my center like this. So now we have a fold like so. The key piece that we are looking for is this kind of kite-like shape. Because once we are folded, we're going to fold it along these little pie sections. And now this paper might be too flimsy. So those little kite shapes are what are going to be front and back in the center. Yeah, this paper is now too flimsy. I'm struggling with it, but we'll do it again with real paper. Okay, that's not working. Let's do it on real paper. this is just demonstration, so don't worry too much about what I'm doing or trying to follow on. I'm gonna do 4. So I want the green side to be facing out. We're gonna do this. No, I want the green side facing out, so I want it that way. I'm gonna do the green side facing in that way. I'm gonna do my diagonal. With my diagonal facing vertical, I'm going to come up. So maybe we shouldn't try and go all the way across. I'm just going to do that one side, do the other side. Turn it around and do the same thing. There we go. All right. So now we have this fold and this fold. We have our diagonal, and then we have our kite. And then when you push it in, come on, it worked last night. There we go. Get that side, that side, that side. There we go. That's what you want it to look like. So your kite is your, oh, I went to take the lid off and there was no lid. So your kite shape is that front point on your triangle. So let's take it slow. Let's cut 3 squares. What did I say? 3 inches, 2.5 inches, and 2 inches. And let's take it step by step. This time again, I'm going to use Lawn Fawn. So this is the Into the Woods remix. It's got some really, really cute papers that have leaves and that kind of thing on, so you can really make it look like a tree. Hey, there's no reason why you couldn't use Ballantyne paper that's coming up, or winter paper. We've got lots of great winter paper. You can change it up. It does not have to be Christmas. All right, and I've got some scraps left over from my sample that I made last night, so I'm just going to reuse those same colors. So I think I'm going to be reversing because now that'll be too small. Okay, so I have my big piece here that I'm going to cut 3 by 3. Come on. Three by 3. And with this particular paper, I do have white on the back. Again, it's not going to show. You only need to have one pretty side for this technique. My next square is going to be 2.5 by 2.5. And my last square is going to be 2 by 2. The biggest one is easiest to work with, so we're going to start there. So folding in on itself, We're going to fold in half vertically. Give it a really good burnish. Open it up. Fold it horizontally. And if you consider this one your practice one, then feel free to even mark those folds as we start building them with your pencil. Everything's going to be inside. You're not going to see it, or you can always unfold it and erase it, but that might just help you see things a little bit easier. So now we're going to open it up and we're going to fold only on one diagonal. We're not going to do both, just one. Okay, I'm going to open it up and have my white side facing me. And I'm going to mark my folds just so I can see them. I'm going to take this line here and line it up to the top fold, making sure I'm mindful of the center. Score only on the right side, or fold only on the right side. Unfold, and now I'm getting pen everywhere. Do the same thing on the other side, like so. So now our kite is starting to form. Flip it around and do the same thing. Okay, now we've got our second lines. Pretty side out, fold on that diagonal, and just try. Oh, that's really easy. I should have done that before. Just pinch in, and those kites are going to pop right up for you. So what I did is I folded on that diagonal, and then just pinch in. There's layer number one. We're running a little bit long, so I'm going to quickly go ahead and do my other two. If you've got the hang of it, then go right ahead and do your other layers too. So fold in your cross, and I've done it the wrong way. You want your pretty side in. Fold on your diagonal. Mark your folds. Fold up. Fold up. Rotate and repeat. Fold over on your diagonal, pinch in. Layer number two. You don't even necessarily need to put this guy on the card. You could just do it, do your layers like this, put a string on it, and make it an ornament. Last one, and then we will call it. All right, one. I'm not sure why. I always have the tendency to fold my pretty side out, but I want my pretty side in. So there's my square. Let's do my diagonal. really do like marking those folds, even if it's just really lightly, just so I can see my landmarks easily. Do my right fold, do my left fold, open up, rotate, and we're just taking this line up here to the center line to make our kite shape. Fold on the diagonal and pinch. Wow, that made it so much easier. I'm just going to quickly, I forgot to prepare my card base, so I'll just do our little woodland critters on the back. Where did my last card base go? Here we go. This particular paper pad also has its own wood grain. I don't know if you can see it very well on the camera there. There we go. So you've got that wood grain built right in. And once again, these are going to tuck inside of each other. So with these guys, you might even want to assemble it before you attach it to your card. So I'm just going to put some tape on the inside of that blue one. And you just want those kite shapes to line up, like so. Might be easier to do that. And obviously I'm going quickly here, so you could probably do a much better tape job than I'm doing. And then bingo bongo, he goes on your card, add your trunk. Up inside. And you probably will want to tape down some of these guys on the back so that they stay flat, and then just attach it to your card. I'm going to attach that later, but it would go something like that. So there you go. That one, once you got the hang of it, it's not that hard. I think that key trick, which I'd forgotten from last night, was fold on the diagonal and then just pinch in your wings. And it goes in much more nicely. So there you have it, ladies. 3 evergreen tree cards that you can Christmasify or not as you see fit. I hope you take away some really great tips from today. And I really hope you've enjoyed all the Zooms that we've done over the last 9 crazy months. I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, all of those wonderful reasons why we want to celebrate all the good things in our life. Let me just pause and close off the recording, and then if anyone has any questions, we can take care of those.